Welcome back to the Arcane Archive. We're doing my favorite thing again today.
Yeah,
That's
mine
right.
too.
It's MetaTalks.
It's
Where I get to be
MetaTalks.
positive and make jokes at the expense of others and not feel cringy or sad or
Well,
like there's
hold
loss
that thought,
or
Ninja, there,
some
Sammy,
sort of
because you never
humanity
know. The certain
or
changes and maybe
Adam.
skill
We've done
dynamics
it
and
a couple
such
times.
here can be pretty
I
cringy at
have
times or
never seen
disappointing.
I have not been entirely disappointed by anything. Obviously, they changed everything in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
They're making D&D better than it's ever been.
Really? Well, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anybody have such an intense amount of copium here, acolytes. What do you think?
I really love what they've done with the place
Mm,
so
mm.
far.
Denial, copium, just really doing the most here, isn't he? Well, by all means, please do
Well,
continue.
actually, I'm starting off with a class that I think they didn't royally screw over.
Really? All right. Well,
Um,
hey, for this
yeah,
episode of
yeah,
class discussion, go ahead, Sammy. Why don't you tell
yeah,
us
yeah.
what class are we going to be
I can't
talking
I
about
can't keep a
today?
straight face at all whatsoever. Before we get into it, please, if you have any opinions or questions or even just what you want us to talk about next, please don't hesitate to leave it below. If you disagree with me specifically, you can post it on a different video, I think would be. No, I love having conversations 100%. So,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
debates, you
yeah, no,
know.
yeah, like friendly discussions and chats that inevitably turn into debates. Yes.
Hmm.
Kind of like when we talk about Sorcerer, me and Adam.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because
Well, eventually,
I'm always so positive and understanding with Adam, and he's just very aggressive towards me about my favorite magic class. So
it is
we're,
not
we're
your
just gonna get
favorite
right into
magic.
Adam. We don't have time for this right now. I we're getting right into it. Today we're doing two of the martial classes. Uh, I am covering Rogue today, and Adam
Ooh.
is covering Paladin
Yes,
today.
sir.
I will
This is
be
gonna be
starting us
good.
off though with our sneakiest, edgiest, most annoying character to play with at a table, the Rogue. Um,
Debatable, definitely one of them though. I mean, we love the Rogue for so many
oh
reasons, but they get
yeah,
such a bad rap. They get into a bad crowd, you know. They hang with bad crowd, and you're just like, oh, come on, Rogue, man, don't do my boy like that.
yeah.
Why you do my boy Rogue
But
like
but
that?
honestly, looking through this, skimming this before we started today, I'm not seeing them being done wrong, which is a good thing because I like Rogue, and already they already ruined Bard for me. So Rogue is where I'm gonna have to, I guess, stake my claim. But yeah, there's actually not a whole lot of difference. There's a couple things that they added, a couple things that they switched the levels on. But I will go through what they get at each level and what those things mean.
Yeah, and we'll
And
do
then I will,
comparisons
yeah, and then
between,
I'll kind of give a comparison from what they maybe what's new, what's not, and what's changed a little bit. But let's go through the new Rogue first.
sir.
The things we get at level 1 are expertise, sneak attack, thieves' cant, and weapon mastery. It's exactly the same as it was before, except weapon mastery is new.
It's
But
new, very new.
expertise works exactly the same. And at level 6, you get two more expertise proficiencies. Expertise, for those of you who don't know, it just means you double your proficiency bonus for a skill. So instead of adding your proficiency bonus to something, you add twice that. It comes in handy in a couple different things. Although I do notice something here. It doesn't mention anything about adding expertise to your thieves' tools. So I'm wondering if they changed how thieves' tools functions. If it's
They
just a sleight of,
might
I
have.
think it's just a sleight of hand check now. If it's not, then I think I
I mean, to be fair, that's how everybody normally did it anyway.
anyway.
Like, like that's to be fair, that's literally just how everyone. In regards to tools,
Oh no, it's
almost
different. Okay. If you have proficiency bonus with a tool, add your proficiency bonus to any check you make with that uses the tool. If you have proficiency in the skill that's used with that check, you have advantage on the check too.
okay.
Uh, so they did change thieves' tools. So
Yeah,
you can't so you can't get expertise in thieves tools now, I guess. Um,
yeah, but I mean,
but
But
I never
again,
took that anyway. So
well, I was gonna say,
I
like,
just took sleight of hand
yeah, I was
because
gonna say everybody just uses sleight of hand anyway. Like
yeah,
it
I don't
just
think it
kind of
really matters. You get advantage.
no,
Cool.
it's just kind. I mean, I would say expertise is just all around better because advantage you still have to potentially roll, and you might still just roll shit even with
Adam, we're
advantage.
talking about everyone else here. I know you don't roll well.
I know.
But I mean, you just use sleight of hand and you get advantage because you're using a tool that you have proficiency in.
Yeah, there you go.
So you get both. It's
Yep.
the best of both worlds.
So you get
So,
advantage. You get a +5
yeah,
statistic bonus, technically speaking,
okay,
but
yeah.
not actually. But
But yeah, well, yes, actually, probability wise.
I mean,
If you
just
make,
probability is a
if
myth I've heard.
no, that's just for you.
I've heard it in the
You have been
tells that
cursed. You have
probability
been
is just,
cursed by an
it's
elder
not
god.
real. It's news. It's fake news. Okay,
No,
it's
no,
fake. Probability
you
is fake news. Statistics
no,
don't matter.
you've been cursed by an outer eldritch
It's all
being. That's why.
conspiracy, Sam. It's all conspiracy.
Yeah, but expertise is doubling your skill proficiencies. Uh, I'm trying to keep us on track here. We got a short video today.
Uh,
We got sneak attack at level 1. Hey, guess what? It works exactly the same as before.
it does.
You have to once per turn, you deal extra sneak attack damage to one creature you hit with an attack roll if you have advantage on the roll and the attack uses a finesse or ranged weapon. The extra damage is the same as the weapons type. You don't need advantage if one of your allies is within 5 feet of the target, and the ally isn't incapacitated, and you cannot have disadvantage on the attack roll, and that damage gets better as you go further into rogue. Thieves' Cant is the same as before. It's a thief language. Think shadow marks in Skyrim, or like Morse code and stuff like that.
Deep
And then
Scant's cool.
we get weapon mastery. Um, Whenever you finish a long rest, you can change your two weapons that you have mastery in. So it does allow some, change in your choice of weapon as the campaign goes on, which is nice. Um,
Mhm.
so that means you're not stuck with daggers and short bows. If you get proficiency with a longbow, or you find a cool rapier or a scimitar, you could just give yourself weapon mastery of those weapons after a long rest, which is nice. At level 2, we have cunning action. I believe that is exactly the same as before.
Correct.
Yeah. Cunning action is just your bonus action being able to dash, disengage, or hide. All very important things for a rouge. Um,
Very much for ye old Rouge.
rouge. I can never spell rogue right. It's awesome. Because I have guess special needs or something. I don't know. At level 3, we get to our
Oh, it's spelled like
subclass.
Rouge instead of Rogue.
You know it. Um, we get our
Love it.
subclass at 3. That's the same as before. Although it's not called a roguish archetype anymore because they ruined the fancy words.
Yep.
It's called a subclass.
They had
But
to just streamline everything now
now you
for
get steady aim. You just have it
yeah,
at
you
that
didn't have to.
third level.
It's not an optional thing
No,
anymore. It's just part of the
which
class,
means
which
the
is
DM can't tell you can't use that because
yeah,
it's
because
in
it's
there.
just part of the class,
And
baby.
for those of you who don't know what steady aim is, I use this quite often on one of
Me
my
too. It's
characters.
great. It's one
As
of
a
the
bonus action, it's one of the best things.
best additions
Um,
to Rogue.
you give yourself advantage as a bonus attack on your next attack roll on the current turn. You can use this feature only if you haven't moved during this turn, and after you use it, your speed is 0 until the end of your current turn. Cool. You know what that means? Free sneak attack.
That's a fair, and
It's
also
a
just
fair
advantage
trade-off.
too. Advantage, sneak attack, like and it's a fair trade-off where it's not busted or overpowered, because it is movement is one of also the biggest attributes of a rogue too.
Yeah.
Being able to maneuver and position yourself. So like this, you can forego your ability to move for the entire turn for free advantage and sneak attack on an enemy.
Yeah. If you're using a throwing rogue or a primarily ranged rogue, it comes in handy a lot.
I mean, it
The
can
only
even work with melee though too.
well, no, I was gonna
You're gonna get there. I
I
apologize. I
was gonna get
apologize.
there.
I'm sorry. Just I'm so
It's
excited. I
also
get so excitable, you guys.
it's also great once if you're playing a midline fighter. Um, it's also great once you set yourself up. Once you get in there, first turn you spend attacking with all your stuff. If you're dual wielding, you use your bonus action for that. Well, next turn, boom, you're right in front of your mark, your target. If I can steady aim, stab him in the neck. It's fun. I do it all the time. It's great.
It's a great ability they added.
It's a good one. It also is pretty cool if you can have someone move you as well. where you don't even
Mm.
have to worry about that. You just already have it. It's fun. It does once you can flank people, if you're playing with flanking rules and they're not two sizes larger than you, it's not as useful, but it's a free. You don't need a
If
friend. You
if you
don't need a
play with
friend.
like
You
super
don't
advantage
need.
rules,
You
then
could
it
do
can
it on
be
a
even
god.
better.
It doesn't matter. It's great. But next up, we have ability score improvement at 4, 8, 10, 12, and 16. That's normal.
The
Um,
huge
there
for the
is an
rouge.
addition. Normally at level 5, all you would get is Uncanny Dodge, which you still do get. But now, which Uncanny Dodge just allows you to use your reaction. Um, when someone hits you with an attack, you can use your reaction to have the damage. Obviously,
Specifically an attack roll.
yeah, there has to be an
That's
attack roll on you.
that
But
is
that
one
means
thing that
ranged
gets
attacks
confusing.
or melee attacks or spell attacks.
Yep. So anything where your enemy is rolling to hit you and you're not rolling to like resist or make a saving throw of some
No,
sort,
it
it
has
has
to
to
be an attack
be
roll.
an attack roll against you.
But they gave you a bonus thing at level 5 as well. They've really front loaded Rogue in this new edition, which is great. I am
It needed
all
it
for that.
badly. Yeah, it needed it
Um,
badly. It really was. That was one of the things about rogues back in the day. It was
kind
like,
of. I mean, rogues always got it done, in my
well,
opinion.
rogues were always more so obviously the skill monkey classes. Like in terms of actual like combat, they were
Still,
usually
hey,
very limited. They were
skilled,
effective.
hey, sneak attack, bud.
I mean, they were effective at higher levels, but even at lower levels, your sneak attack, like extra damage, is great. But it was still obviously even before, like for instance, steady aim. It was so dependent on like a lot of your, excuse me, teammates
We're
positioning
sneaky, being sneaky.
if you had the option. But again, if you were just dropped in like an arena, with no cover or anything, then you were kind of just shit out of luck for the most part. You were just like, all right, I gotta wait for my teammates to kind of get in there. I gotta find
Yeah,
some other way to maybe get.
it's
So it was
unfortunate,
like
but it
it was
depends
a
on the kind of game you
yeah,
play.
they were a little bit lacking in terms of front loaded combat prowess. But now,
Well, it's because they're
2024,
not.
they
They're
helped
not
quite a bit
combat
now.
classes. They're combat classes in a way, but they're
They're
kind of
they're like half skill, half combat
they're
class.
like
You
the
know what I
bard.
mean? Like, yeah. It's like they
They're
they accept
skill
except
based.
they're just not the magic part. It's it's
No,
it's con it's martial slash finesse.
yeah.
They're half and half with
But
that, which is
now they get
nice.
a new interesting thing they also get to do at level 5 that they did not have before, called Cunning Strike. You've developed cunning ways to use your sneak attack. When you deal sneak attack damage, you can add one of the following cunning strike effects. Each effect has a die cost, which is the number of sneak attack die you must forego to add the effect. You remove the die before rolling, and the effect occurs immediately after the attack's damage is dealt. For example, if you add the poison effect, which costs 1d6, you remove the 1d6 from the sneak attack damage before rolling. If the cunning strike effect requires a saving throw, the DC equals 8 plus your dex mod and proficiency bonus. Thank you for being dex. I love the soul knife class. The fact that it was an intelligence based
Intelligence, yeah.
sucked, but it also I got it because it's
It makes
psionics.
sense. Yeah, it's
I
psychic.
get
It
it.
makes
I get it.
sense.
It's fine. Just get a headband of intellect. It's fine. Um, but yeah, the options you get at level 5 are poison, and they all cost 1d6. Poison, you add a toxin to your strike, forcing the target to make a con saving throw. On a failed save, the target has the poison condition for 1 minute. At the end of each of its turns, the poison target repeats the save, ending the effect on itself on a success. To use this effect, you must have a poisoner's kit on your person. That is important to remember.
You need a
Don't be
you
that
you,
guy.
you
Don't be that
need you
guy
need
that
a
doesn't have it.
poisoner's kit to poison things and
Don't be
people.
that
Like,
guy who's like, "Well, I'm doing it," and your DM's like, "Do you have a poisoner's kit?" And then you pencil it in really roughly at the bottom of your sheet. No, get a poisoner's kit. It's not even expensive. Just go get one. If your DM won't go let you go to the store, just say, "I want it." And then the next one is Trip. This is also a 1d6 cost. If the target is large or smaller, it must succeed on a dex saving throw or have the prone condition. I also
hey,
like this because it's
that's
not a strength
nice.
saving throw, because a lot of trip
No.
effects in this game are strength saving throws.
Sometimes they are,
I
yeah.
want a dex saving throw so I can trip big, slow moving people.
Well,
Uh,
honestly, same thing for like when we were talking about the monk. Like so many of the monk's abilities now are based off of their decks now.
yes, which means
Instead
I don't have to build wisdom into my
or
fucking
or strength for like
Yeah,
grapples and shit
yeah,
anymore. Like there
it's
was no
changed.
reason to
Yeah,
do that.
it's
So I
awesome.
love in the new 2024 where they're finally giving classes like their specific attributes,
Yeah,
like
or just
focuses.
you know what it makes? It means I can min max the fuck out of
Yeah,
everything.
exactly. But
Because I
also
don't
it just makes sense too. Like it's
the
just like
classes that bother me the most are classes that need three good skills.
yeah, having three is
Monk
just
has
so
always
much.
been that because you need Dex, Wisdom, and Con as a monk. You need it. And so if you're doing like standard array, monk is dog shit for like the first eight
Yeah.
levels.
Yeah.
If you
It
are
takes a
playing
while to get
if
up
you are
there.
playing a rolled game and you roll really good stats, then hell yeah, play monk. Or
Monk is
or
crazy then, but
or do what I do, and when you roll really good stats, play Bard because then you're good at everything more so than anyone else in your party, and it annoys everyone at your table. Now the last one you get at level
except for
5 is with
combat.
no, I was still good at that too. Because the only spell I used for the first 8 levels was Dissonant Whispers
Distant Whispers is great. It's
and
true.
invisibility, and I was a glamour bard, so I just commanded people to move and gave them free health. Um, the last one you get is withdraw. Immediately after the attack, you move up to half your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. I like this. Is it useful all the time? No, but it is an option to keep in your back pocket
I mean,
in case a bunch of dudes find you and surround you. I think it's great.
for
It's
Rogue, I
for
would
rogue.
use this a lot
It's a
actually, because
midline.
it's just
You're
part of
in
your
melee.
sneak attack. Like
Yeah, if you're in melee, like especially if you get caught in melee unawares and you're like, oh fuck, I need to get out of here because these guys are gonna beat the shit out of me. This is great.
like because it doesn't even say you have to use your reaction for this. It's just
Nope.
you just get rid of one of your sneak attack die, and you can
You get out of
immediately
there.
bloop and just dip,
And that also means you can use
and
your
then
if you haven't
you
used your
can
bonus action on that
dash.
turn. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was about to say.
you can
Um,
bonus action just dash and get the hell out of there again. Like it's literally great guerrilla tactics. Like it literally gives the whole vibe of the rogue doing the roguish things of like weaving in, stab, running away, and like
yeah,
the like we were saying before, right?
which is how I like to play rogue.
Movement. Now,
Yeah.
to be fair, you wouldn't be able to do this if, for instance, you did take the steady aim bonus action previously, because you wouldn't have any speed, technically speaking. Like it says, you can move up to half your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. But if you have zero speed at that time, you wouldn't be able to do this. So just keep that in mind. If you use
Yeah,
steady aim,
it's
wouldn't
great.
be able to use withdraw, most likely. But, again, if you don't, still great. Because technically speaking, I guess, yeah, you would have to still have your sneak attack to do that. But still, that's great. If you have like a friend currently fighting, you're going to get your sneak attack anyway. You don't need the advantage. You hit them with it. Boom, withdraw. You dip the hell out of there.
Great. You do in between fifth and seventh, you do get a 6th level your expertise. And then they changed something here. Normally at level 7, all you would get is evasion, which is a huge perk. Basically, it's what
Oh,
Uncanny Dodge
it's
does, but better.
lovely.
And for things that have you make a dex save, which is a lot of things in this game. You can nimbly dodge out of the way of certain dangers when you're subjected to an effect, not a spell, not an attack, an effect, which covers everything. An effect that allows you to make a dexterity throw to take only half damage. You instead take no damage if you succeed on the saving throw and only take half damage if you fail. You cannot take full damage.
Yep. It is an amazing ability.
It is one of
It
the
is
best.
absolutely the bane of most GMs, in my opinion. Like so many GMs hate this ability. I love it, even as a GM, because again, it just shows the badass coolness factor of your super like hyper dex classes. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Again,
Yep.
the monk and the rogue are the only classes that get this ability. But it shows again just how literally supernaturally dexterous and quick they are. Where like
Yeah.
you literally get hit with a fireball, right? You make the save, somehow miraculously you're completely unharmed. You just like you're spinning through the flames or some shit or whatever. You kind of cover yourself, almost like how Batman does it, right? When like it with explosions and shit, like how he like pulls up his cape and then he like flips his cape around and you see him like in the flames and the fire, basically completely unharmed.
It's great.
That's just badass, and we
If you've
love to see it.
if you've
Like,
watched the
come
Vox
on,
Machina
dude.
cartoon on Prime, there in the first season, the fight in that temple when Vax gets the boots of speed and he's just fucking
He's just
moving and
he's
jumping out of
schmoovin', bro. He
he's
is
jumping
schmoovin'.
through the air and dodging everything. It really that it's amazing. That's what evasion feels like, especially when you're playing as a rogue and they're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna breathe fire on you," and you're like, "Psych."
Yeah, like one of the one of the best depictions, one of the best comedic depictions I've seen about evasion is from D&D Shorts. He's also a YouTuber as well. Um and he did one where like he literally plays the wizard and the rogue where he's like, I cast fireball and fires a fireball. He's like, ha 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 ha. And then like the rogue just appears. He's like, you missed. Like just like he's like, what? What? No, 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 I didn't. I hit you with a fireball. And he's like, no, you didn't. And he's like, what? Yeah, yes, I
I did.
did. I did that. And he's like, how? Where? No. It's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's just what it
It's
is. It's just
it's
like,
great.
nope.
It's even better if you either have access to absorb elements or you have some resistances, because even if you do fail, depending on the type of damage, you're taking a quarter damage.
Yeah, you'll take half and then
Which
half again.
which for me, playing a rogue for as long as I did in the campaign, where my DM liked to throw stupid things at us,
Oh, we
um,
love the stupid things
it
though.
was frustrating for him because I had a 21 AC, which isn't super high, but it was
It's
just high
not
enough.
horror. Yeah, that's
I
not
could I
astronomical, but
could
it's good.
as
It's
a
still really good.
soul nef, I could give myself temp HP. I could uncanny dodge on attacks.
Half attacks.
I could
Yep.
evade a lot of the things he threw at us, and it was very frustrating for him that I was just not taking damage. It wasn't an issue of like, man, you're really beefy. You can really take a lot of damage. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's just
dude,
like you
we've
just can't
this
be hurt.
combat we've been in this combat for an hour and I've been in the middle of the thick of it and I haven't taken any damage. And that
Yeah,
was
you
very,
can't be hurt. You just can't
no.
be hurt.
It was great. You also now get another ability about what is it? 4 levels earlier than before. You get reliable talent at 7th level.
Yeah.
Whenever you make an ability check that uses one of your skill or tool proficiencies, you can treat the D20 roll of 9 or lower as a 10.
I mean
Now,
that
if those are things you have expertise in, and you have 20 decks, you're gonna be just baseline rolling like a 20 on everything.
basically.
It's pretty great. If you then take feats that give you extra skills, you just don't have to roll.
So
Um,
we talked about this quite a bit before. Like we have sung the praises of the ability reliable talent, as well as specifically in conjunction with the Bard's ability, Jack of all trades. For you see, if you multi-class as a Bard and a Rogue, and you get these two abilities, which now you can do so more easily than ever, you essentially can't fail any
well,
skill
does
checks.
half proficiency, it still counts as proficiency, right? From
Yeah.
Jack of all
Yes. It's still, you are technically
proficient.
still proficient. Even if you only get half
Wow.
proficient, you are still technically
What level does Bard get
proficient.
that?
I mean, I'm not sure what the new Bard gets it, but the old Bard, I believe, got it at like level, I think level
Let
7 or
me
so.
just
Like, or
double
level, like,
check.
yeah, let's
Let
check that
me
real
have a
quick.
look. See.
Cause
Da, 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 da,
let us
You
see.
get it at level 2.
Yeah, you get
Level
level 2
2.
now at for Bard. So you take just 2 levels in Bard. You get up to level 7 in Rogue now, and you effectively
Oh,
can't fail skill checks
so I think I have a new build I'm
anymore.
gonna make.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
I've been thinking about making one like that. Again,
think
they are
I
the
think
ultimate skill monkey.
I think I have to. I'm gonna have to. We're doing an Eberron. We're gonna do an Eberron campaign
Oh
with the new
boy.
rule set, and I think I might piss my DM off, but I don't know.
I'm planning on trying like because like, we just started the evil campaign in one of the ones in one of the groups I'm a part of yesterday. And it's already looking to be like potentially an absolute like body blender. here because our GM has thrown some astronomically crazy shit at us, and so we're
Yeah,
all
it's an
like,
evil campaign. You might
you
as
know
well get
what?
it.
Yeah, he's like, you know what? We might want to have a lot of characters lined up potentially because
I
this
love when
shit
the
might
DM's
be.
honest.
So at this point, like, yeah, I'm thinking I might also just say F it, and I might run with one of the because we're starting at high level. We're doing this is a high level campaign
Even
at the
better.
at the beginning, which means I can kind of front load a lot of this shit right away. So I just might also
Yeah.
throw in some of this
But
shit real quick. Um,
but yeah, it's good. I
it's
don't
real
know.
nice.
I don't know if every DM is going to agree that reliable talent stacks with Jack of all trades because it just says you can add half your proficiency bonus, not that you are proficient. But either way,
I mean, technically, the thing
even
is just
even
like
even without that working, all you need is take the skilled feat or like a feat like that where you get extra skill proficiencies and you're or even multi-classing into another class that offers good skill proficiencies and you are rolling really well. Even if you're just playing rogue, it's still extremely helpful because things like stealth, perception, sleight of
huh?
hand, deception, things that you would have already taken are now just better all the time,
You just
consistency
can't
wise.
fail it, basically, which makes
You
sense
can,
if you're so
you can.
scaled. I
So
mean,
like because if you have like a +6 to your proficiency because it's not an expertise skill, um, and you roll a 10, that's a 16. You can still fail sometimes, but it will keep you from rolling really low. So like your everyday stuff, your DM might just not have you roll anymore. Like, yeah, you're just good enough to do this. Like, and that's what I love. Take some rolling out of the game is fine with me. Um, but we'll continue on here. There's another new ability that we didn't have before, called Improved Cunning Strike. You can now use two Cunning Strike effects when you deal a sneak attack, paying the die cost for each effect. So you can now trip and poison someone, or trip somebody and then run away.
it's pretty great because again, you as you level up, your sneak attack die increases, right? Your dice pool increases. So now with this, it makes more sense because now you're able to get rid of or sacrifice more of your hit die to get two effects, but you still have a decent pool to work with,
Yeah, you're
right? Because
still doing
obviously
consistent damage.
yeah, obviously at level, 2 or level 1, you only gonna have like one extra or two extra uh D6s to utilize. So obviously when you're like level 5, you get Cunning Strike. I think you have what, 3D6 at that point, I believe. And so effectively, like to use any of the Cunning Strike, you'd sacrifice one of those D6s and you don't have two D6s for the damage, but you'd also get that extra ability. But now at like level, 11, at that point, you have like what, like six, maybe seven
It's
D6s?
like 5 or 6
Yeah, it
because
might be
you
five.
end
Yeah, I
with
think you're right.
10.
Yeah, you have like five or six D6s at that point. So now you can sacrifice two of those. You still got 3D6 damage.
Yeah.
Plus, you can, like Sam said, poison, trip, dip, any of those three.
Now this builds into another one, because you now get, um, at level 14, devious strikes. You practice new ways to use your sneak attack deviously. The
Ooh,
following
you're so
effects are now
devious.
The value effects are now among your Cunning Strike options. You get Daze for a cost of 2d6. The target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw, or on its next turn, it can do only one of the following: move, or take an action, or a bonus action. It's kind of like slow, but even worse for a single target.
Yep.
Knockout. This one costs 6d6. So this is for like an infiltration when you're not trying to kill somebody. The target must succeed on a con saving throw, or it has the unconscious condition for 1 minute or until it takes any damage. The unconscious target repeats the save at the end of each of its turn, ending the effect on itself on a success. Or obscure with a cost of 3d6. The target must succeed on a dex saving throw, or it has the blinded condition until the end of its next turn. That's killer.
Mm.
Because you, when you're blind, everything has advantage on you.
And you have disadvantage attacking everything else. You also, if you're a spellcaster, many things you
You
cannot
can't
cast
cast.
because you need to see in
It's
order to
great.
do
I
so.
love it.
Uh, so yeah, I mean the knockout one is obviously pretty huge too, because that's like your straight, badass,
I'm gonna
secret
kidnap
agent,
someone.
like just
Yeah.
you hit him with that one like just quick like hacha, chop to the back of the neck, and they just go like it's pretty great.
Yep.
Um, Of
I
course,
love it.
all of the enemies they do have to make con saves or dex save in order for these to take effect. Um, so of course, you're not going to be able to necessarily do it against like an ancient dragon or whatever who's got shit crazy con and legendary saves and shit like
I
that.
like to think of
But
it more as that's more of an infiltration tool
yeah,
or a kidnapping tool, which I like. I think it adds more stuff, which I enjoy.
I mean, to be fair, you
Um,
you can use it in actual
oh yeah,
combat
yeah,
too,
yeah.
where it's like if you get lucky, right? You burn all those legendary saves and you get lucky enough where it somehow fails the con save. Because again, the saves do go off of your dex. So the saves, you're gonna at this point
And your
got a pretty
proficiency.
yeah, and your proficiency. So you're gonna have a pretty high DC. So it's like it's not impossible. If you knock that dragon out and it goes the unconscious condition for 1 minute, you just then at that point you get free crits on it, at least for the first attack. So then
Yeah,
you as the rogue could just at this point you've got at least you got 66 right there, and you just get the auto crit from stabbing it unconscious. That's crazy. That's crazy
yeah.
work.
It is nice.
Or you and your team can start buffing up. Again, it's a full minute.
Well,
So he's
they have to make a save at the end of each of their turns.
true, fair enough. But it's still just like,
So you
could
could
be
set it
kind of
up to just
crazy.
you could set it up to take a big hit from somebody else too.
Yeah, like
Um,
the paladin that we'll be talking about in a little while.
um, at level 15, you get Slippery Mind, which is named the same as a skill before, except now instead of just getting wisdom saving throw proficiency, you get wisdom and charisma saving throw proficiency. Um, at 18, you get elusive. Let me double check. It's exactly the same.
Yep.
You're so evasive that attacks rarely gain the upper hand against you. No attack roll can have advantage against you unless you are incapacitated. Level 19, you get an epic boon. And level 20, you get Stroke of Luck. You have a marvelous knack for succeeding when you need to. If you fail a d20 test, you can turn the roll into a 20. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. Now, eh, it's a bit of a capstone ability, but the reality is it could come in handy.
I mean,
You are level 20. Like there is
I was
the
gonna
fact that
say,
like man, that BBEG you've been fighting for 2 real life hours is one hit away from death, and you go and you roll up there with your sneak attack, and you have advantage, and you roll 2 1s as aggregates.
yo, yes,
But now, guess what? One of those ones, it's a 20, baby.
it's just a 20.
It's a 20 plus your shit. So you hit him. That's a 20. So it's not flashy. I wish it was different. I don't hate the ability itself. It sucks as a capstone ability, but to be completely honest, most capstone abilities suck.
Well, they
Um,
they actually changed a lot of caption abilities
I just
now.
meant like historically speaking.
Yeah, but I will say in the
Um,
new 2024 edition, this is actually pretty shitty in terms of like again, we talked about Monk. Monk's new capstone ability compared to what they had before. Oh my goodness, that shit is crazy. Like they just got the barb treatment. They got the barbarian treatment there, and we love that. We love that for them. This again, it's not bad. Like Sam said, just that once a short or long rest, you can just basically win. You can just basically win once. Not great, but also at the same token, by this point in your career as a rogue, you kind of just do that anyways. Like again, when you got reliable talent, meaning that you can't really fail on anything you're pretty good at anyways. Um, but this is just like, yeah, you can just hit once, which is it's highly underwhelming for a 20th capstone ability, but you're also already just pretty crazy strong at that point too, you know.
yeah, there's pluses and minuses there.
I will
Um,
say they did make it better from the old one because the old one you could only turn ability checks that you failed into a 20. Now it
it's
also includes attack rolls, just any D20 test.
it
So
can also be
now
saving throws.
yeah, and saving throws. Any D20 test, you can now just get a crit success on, which is great. That is, to be fair, a big improvement
Yeah,
over the original. Original was pretty crap, actually. It was even more pretty crap. Pretty crap.
but I did want to talk quickly about one of the subclasses.
Yes, sir.
There were only 4 that they brought in: the Arcane Trickster, the Assassin, the Soul Knife, and the Thief. I wanted to talk about Assassin
I mean,
today.
I'm down for assassin. Who doesn't love a
Um,
good old assassin? You know what I mean?
and right away, they have changed assassin. One, the bonus proficiencies doesn't apply anymore because you already have a poisoner kit and a disguise kit proficiency. Um, and assassinate has been changed. So the original was starting at third level, you are your deadliest when you get the drop on your enemies. You have advantage on attack rolls against any creature that hasn't taken a turn in the combat yet. In addition, any hit you score against a creature that is surprised is a critical hit. Now, a lot of people didn't run surprise correctly,
Most, yeah.
and surprise doesn't come up that much in D&D because a lot of people don't know how to run it, and it is kind of confusing. So
A
they
little
changed
bit.
it. So surprise is no longer. Oh, I guess you still do get the
I was gonna,
disguise and poisoner's kit. That's weird. I thought you had proficiency with it anyway. I don't know.
no.
Whatever. No, you just had them.
Yeah.
Um, but now you get advantage on initiative. That wasn't there before, which is cool.
Hmm.
And you have surprising strikes. During your first round of each combat, you have advantage on attack rolls against any creature that hasn't taken a turn. If your sneak attack hits a target during that round, the target takes extra damage of the weapon's type equal to your rogue level.
So
It's
here's
not it's not
here's
a buff by any means. But the
no,
problem is the
unfortunately.
amount of times that I actually was able to use surprise in any game I've played
Yeah.
is literally zero. So I'd rather take consistent damage,
Yeah.
as sad as that is.
I mean, so again, to be fair, it is basically kind of the same as 2014. Like in terms of assassinate, like you in the 2014 rules, it literally says the same thing. Is you have advantage on attack rolls against any creature that hasn't taken a turn in the combat yet. In addition, any hit you score against a creature that is surprised is a critical hit. So I mean, technically speaking, like wor rules as written or words as written, like it just basically means that any creature hasn't taken a turn in combat yet. Uh, but for here, for the 2014, like Sam said, the critical hit technically be like, well, they're not necessarily surprised. Like, because again, if for instance, if you just start combat while you're face to face with somebody, you might get advantage on them if you get ahead of them in initiative, but they wouldn't necessarily be surprised, you
No,
know?
so a lot of times you end up actually being able to use that section.
Yeah, you would never be able to really use your like the second part of your assassinate because of that. But with this one, it basically just it doesn't have that addendum or that like that disconnect, right? It literally is now you can just do both of those things now against any enemy who hasn't yet taken a turn in the first round of combat.
And it's just
So
extra
still
bonus
not
damage as
yeah,
well.
it's
And
it's
that
it's
scales as you get higher level in rogue.
true, and it's but obviously it is only for the first round of combat, not every round of
No.
that combat, right?
The
It's just
first round of every combat.
yeah, the first round of every combat, and only obviously if that creature hasn't taken a turn yet, which I feel is a little annoying. I feel like it should just be like the first round of every combat, you get the opportunity to just do to assassinate because again, even here you're still limited at times if say
Yeah,
you just
but
you roll shit for your initiative, right?
but to be fair, you have advantage in your dex based, which is what initiative is.
Well,
You
one
could
of the
take alert, so you get a
things.
+5. Like
Well, that's what I was
you
gonna
could stack it
say.
up.
Like you could increase. There are ways to increase your initiative, yeah. But one of the biggest gripes that people had with Assassin is exactly because it has this very specific caveat or restriction to its literal like hallmark ability, and yet they don't have any way to increase your. They don't allow you to increase your initiative like innately. Like
Well,
fucking
which is why I like the fact that they added the you get advantage on initiative because before that
yes.
wasn't a thing. Like at least
Yes.
they gave you something.
That does help. That does help for sure. I mean, but they also could have done it like the swashbuckler. The swashbuckler gets just a boost. They get to add their charisma to their initiative.
Yeah, but
It's
that's another
like
stat you have to spec into.
true, but I
I don't want to
mean,
do that. I just want
to be
common dex,
fair though, it's like rogues might kind of stack into charisma anyway because
wisdom, perception, baby, or investigation and intelligence.
well, I was gonna say,
I
I mean, it depends on what type of if you're an assassin, kind of the whole thing is like, you're gonna be trying to take from what we even did before, you're gonna be maybe disguising yourself again with literally the disguise kit, the poisoner's kit.
yeah,
So
but
you're gonna
I treat
need,
it kind of like Hitman rules. I don't talk
yeah,
to anyone.
you're gonna be well, you're gonna have to though, most likely in a D&D game in a
No, because
party.
all you do is you just always disguise yourself as the help, so nobody looks at you
Mm.
twice.
I mean, you're not wrong there at all. That
No.
definitely that's real. That's a oof. That was a reality check right there. It was
Sorry.
like,
It's a reality check for me as well.
no, I feel you. No, I literally was playing Cyberpunk 2077 last night, and I'm like, I was doing a mission where I was like kind of this, I was pretending to be like a high stakes roller at this casino, and I was trying to like get some information on two other occupants, and my character literally did a thing where it was a choice like, yo, order some drinks, and my character literally like looked up, snapped his fingers, and like beckoned one of the servers over, or one of the, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute,
Yeah, wait a minute.
that's not how I wanted to do that. Like that is not what the fuck. Like,
That's not nice.
I mean, I guess that
But
was the point too. He was trying to portray himself as being kind of like a rich snobby
yeah,
douche, I
yeah,
guess,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it was still just like, it was like, whoa, wait a minute. I couldn't help but have some personal kind of reactions and feelings about that.
Yeah.
Like, wait a
But
minute.
you know, it's I think it works. It's not it could be better, but I don't hate the change only because
No,
I
it
have never been able to
definitely
use surprise. No
it
one has
has
ever given me
definitely
surprise.
made the ability better, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the ability is
No,
good.
it's hard. I think it's more consistent, which can help. And technically, you're sitting there, you could get an extra 10 damage when you're like level 10. That's extra 10 damage every first round of combat. That can make a difference.
I mean,
Um,
it's a lot. Like once you get higher levels, this can be devastating for certain. Like
yeah, I think
again,
so.
if you like Sam said, if you take the alert feed, if you can get things to increase your initiative to the point where you are like just astronomically, almost completely guaranteeing that you're gonna go first in the initiative, like
And
this,
technically, this also does apply if you do manage to get the drop on somebody, like surprise wise. Like if you're
yes,
infiltrating and you find a guard, say you're
yes.
trying to break someone out of prison, you sneak into a prison, and you're like, I'm gonna kill that fucking guard.
Mhm.
Technically, the moment you attack him, it's start of a combat, you get this.
Or we'll even say if we want to be like more specific with the rules, if there is no technical combat that's been initiated because you took him by surprise, you still get this, and he's just gone. Like that's an auto you get this, right?
You do get a crit, and you get extra damage on top of
Yeah.
that.
So it's
So
like you
it
like,
still works, I think.
yeah, it can. Like again,
And
like hopefully,
there is something that plays into this later as well.
yes, it's true.
Um,
There are things that build off of it which are nice.
and if you have a magic weapon with extra dice and all that stuff, it can be pretty crazy.
Yes.
You do also at level 3 get you gain a disguise kit and a poisoner's kit, and you get proficiency with them. You just have them; they just appear in your backpack. Love
Yep.
that. At level 9, you get infiltration expertise, which I believe is pretty much the same, well, kind of similar, not exactly the
No,
same.
there's definitely a
But
difference.
this,
Yeah.
I think this works better just because it's easier.
Yes,
You
it's far less convoluted
It's
and
far less convoluted.
involved
Here's what
and
you can
just
do.
it's streamlined,
You're
which is
you're
nice.
an expert at the following techniques that aid your infiltrations. Masterful mimicry. You can unerringly mimic another person's speech, handwriting, or both if you have spent at least 1 hour studying them. And you get roving aim. Your speed isn't reduced to 0 by using steady aim. Now the old version of this was a convoluted mess
Very much so.
of creating a false identity
You had to spend 7 days,
and 25 gold.
25 gold to
You know what?
establish like,
Instead of creating a new identity, you know what you can do? Just copy someone else.
yeah.
Which is, I think, a lot better. You could just kill someone and replace them in their daily life, which I find a lot more fun than the old version. Um,
I
I
mean,
like that.
there's a cool thing about being able to make your own identity, but the biggest issue with this too is that like, why wouldn't you just have that identity already pre? There's literally a background that allows you to just have a separate like identity.
That too. You could just take that.
Like there's just for this the issue too being is that this ability was almost completely and utterly useless unless you had a lot of prep time ahead of time for
Which a
whatever
lot of
the
people don't.
hell you're doing. Which most of the time, yeah, your GM is not going to set up like a huge event
Here's a
thing or
week.
whatever
Here's a week you have.
7 days in advance. Like you guys have said, what are you guys gonna do in 7 days? It's like, no, you guys have there's
Like
a
maybe
ball
2 days
going
at
on
most.
tomorrow, yeah, or 3 days, and you're just like, okay, well, I can't use this thing unless your GM was just
Yeah.
cool about it and was like, yeah, you already have a pre-established alternate identity that you can
Yeah.
just pull from.
To be
Like
completely honest, roving aim is the thing I'm really looking forward to.
roving aim is badass as hell. That actually is a legitimate like addition there. That would be really
Um,
cool.
and then you get level 13 in venom weapons, which before you got imposter at 13.
Which
Um,
is basically just what you get now at level 9 for the
yeah.
2024.
Great. You can use the
It
poison
was
option of your
3 hours. It was 3 hours.
when you use the poison option of your cunning strike, the target also takes 2d6 poison damage whenever it fails the saving throw. This damage ignores resistance to poison damage. I like it.
That's good. I mean, there's so many things that are resistant, if not immune to poison, especially at
I
these
like
high
that.
levels.
It doesn't ignore
It doesn't
immunity,
ignore immunity, but it
but
does
it
ignore resistance.
yeah, I like it.
And it just gives you an
Extra
extra
damage.
damage with
It's
it.
extra
Like,
damage. I
yeah.
love it. And then at level 17, you get Death Strike. When you hit with your sneak attack on the first round of a combat, the target must succeed on a con save, or the attack's damage is doubled against the target. Now, that doesn't mean if you don't crit originally, it doesn't double.
It
No,
does
it
not.
doubles.
It doubles
So it could
everything.
you could technically quadruple.
Yes.
Which is terrifying.
That is, I mean,
Except that
again,
this doubling also includes all of your bonuses. So if you were to crit sneak attack plus your attack damage bonus, then you double all of that.
yes, all of it.
Um, so the original version is basically the same thing.
Yeah, it's very
It's
similar.
literally the same. Well, it has to be surprise. This is
Yeah.
just first round of combat. So
Yes.
they're basically saying, you know what, fuck this whole surprise bullshit. Although it
It's just
still
too
does
complex
apply,
and debatable.
it still does
It
apply.
does
You can
apply to if they are surprised.
if I come to a guard as a level 17 assassin and I fucking get you in the
And
neck,
and you hit him first, technically
that is
speaking,
a surprise because he did
that's a
not see me,
surprise.
and it's the
And
first round,
I was gonna say, and
and I would get
he
everything.
didn't go. He didn't do anything.
No,
So
anything
you
didn't go, so I get all of it.
yeah.
That is terrifying,
I mean it's that is in essence an assassin, right?
and I like it,
Just the one hit
and I
KO.
want to do this. I want to play as this.
No, agreed. I'm also quite interested in giving this a shot. Yeah, like I'm
The other
like
thing I want to point out, the only other thing that I noticed change wise for another subclass because I looked at it before choosing this one, you're not if you want to play Arcane Trickster, you don't just have to use certain schools of spells anymore. It's all of them, which is great.
I was gonna say because you're a spell thief. Like just take spells.
No,
It doesn't
now you can
matter.
do all of it. It's
Yeah,
great.
screw that shit.
I love it. So
Honestly, so all in all, though, definitely definitely an improvement to the assassin class from before, because the assassin class, as we've talked about previously, was one of the worst classes in the game. Just just baseline, it was 2014 assassin. You know, we
nobody
loved
really
you.
played it.
Everybody loved the idea because who doesn't love an assassin? Everybody loves assassins. They're great. It's one of the best hallmarks of like any kind of like archetype of fantasy and badassery and death and killing and stuff. Like who wouldn't love it? But the execution of the actual abilities were god awful. They were just terrible in regards to actual gameplay mechanics. Now, though, they streamlined it. They made it all far and away more accessible and applicable to many more scenarios and situations. Definitely improvement. Still probably not, the best, of course, but still really cool if you can get those moments and if you build it right, if you make the right build for it, can absolutely be highly effective and super fun to play. Overall, what would you say would be your rating for the new 2024 Rogue, Sammy?
I think I think the rug itself is good. I think so. I think they've improved it. I like that it's front loaded. It allows me to be super annoying with rogue multi classes. So I love
Mm-hmm.
that. It makes it even better than it used to be.
Agreed.
The fact that I could remake my Sonic Fighter, Sonic Rogue multi-class, and I think it would actually be better than it currently is kind of
Is kind
terrifying.
of nuts. It's kind of nuts. I would
So
absolutely concur.
that's where I'm at right now.
Yes.
Um, which I kind of want to do at some point, and
Yeah.
just to see
I am
what I
very
can get
interested
away
in
with.
making some interesting, fun new rogues and rogue hybrids as well. I would agree. Like, I think they definitely made improvements. I don't think they really nerfed anything at all for it. I think it was only just kind of improvements and buffs, no real nerfs at all from what I saw. Uh, and all in all, we just appreciate that. You know, our good old Rogue boys and girls, you know, Rogue is also one of my all-time favorite classes, and so I'm glad that it got like just a little bit more love, a little bit more meat to it, especially like Sam said at the beginning stages, the earlier stages, you know. And it's still gonna be one of the best contenders for classes, in my opinion. The Rogue. So hey, well done with Watson. Well done indeed. You didn't screw this one up, which appreciate that so very much. But you know what? Let's speaking of potentially screwing some shit up, let's go ahead and let's dive into the second class that we will be discussing today. Almost kind of the antithesis, or not quite the antithesis, but also ironically kind of mutual counterpart to the Rogue. We're going to be talking about the Paladin today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys for attending. I know you were waiting for it. Paladin, ironically, as I was kind of saying before, is almost like a weird kind of other half of the other side of the coin from Rogue, right? They're both classes, whereas Rogues are sneakier, more, you know, like elusive and slippery, but can deal high damage in single strikes and stuff as they need. On the other side, you got the Paladins, who can also deal astronomical damage in single strikes and hits if they'd like, but are not at all sneaky or slippery. They are all about front line, full frontal assaults and direct solutions to any problems that they have. Um, and so we're going to take a look at both the 2024 and comparison to the 2014 Paladin. To start us off right at the beginning, you're going to have a pretty, well, not pretty big change, I should say. For the 2024 Paladin, I do believe that you get all the same proficiencies and trainings and everything for you, equipment. Yeah, it's used from 2 skills. I think the skills are all the same. Yep. Um,
Go with the
Starting
divine sense
at
though.
Divine Sense is something that is, yeah, they switched that up a little bit. Um, so right off the bat at level 1 for the 2024, you get your Lay on Hands, as you also technically did in the 2014. Works, I believe, the same way, except this time it's a bonus action now instead of an action.
That's huge.
We love that change because that was
So
always one of the
Paladin already buffed,
yes, that was always one
already
of the
better.
biggest things. But again, we keep your excitement kind of to a minimum. There is, I think, one pretty huge change that people have. It's been rather controversial that we'll get to. But for Lay on Hands, one of the biggest things about the original 2014 edition was that it was an action to utilize. And so, therefore, a lot of the time, you had to choose between, you know, potentially healing yourself or a friend, your companion for maybe near death, or just going in for, you know, the nuke attacks as a paladin. Because as a paladin, you are primarily going to be relied upon as a damage dealer, but you also do have plenty of support and healing potential and ability as well. And so that's why Paladin is also one of the best and one of my favorite classes, because it has so many options to diversify where you want to go. But this right here with this change to this Lay on Hands, you don't have to do that anymore. You can literally do the best of both worlds. You can deal the damage and then you can heal the damage. That's what we love to see. All right. Moving on. You also get spell casting at level 1. Again, which is a little bit different from the other one. You got spell casting, excuse me, technically at level 2 in the old class or in the old edition. Basically functions predominantly the same. Except I do believe that, again, same as every other class now, you have let's see, paladins. You have a set number of spells that you just can prepare and know at any point. at this point. Same thing as again with every other class who could do that. You no longer it no longer is like dependent on your charisma, specifically on how many spells you can like cast or utilize. You just have a set number now. So again, slight debuff to all spellcaster classes, I suppose, but not necessarily one that's not understandable or fair to maybe balance things out a little bit more or make things a little bit easier for people, right? So again, not too shabby with that. Another thing though to remember is for spell casting now, for preparing for paladins, it's a little bit different. It used to be in 2014, you could just prepare your full spell list that you could use every long rest. So every long rest, you could switch out every single spell for whatever else you wanted on the paladin spell list. Now, unfortunately, you can only exchange one spell per long rest. So you have to keep the others that you prepared before. You can only switch them out one at a time every long rest now. So again, a little bit more of a restriction, a little bit of a nerf there, which again, I don't really understand why. Seems a little annoying and tedious unnecessarily, but whatever, it's fine. You also, like many other martial or slash finesse classes, you gain weapon mastery. Same thing as every other thing. You basically can just now choose two kinds of weapons of your choice with your proficiency, and you gain special properties and abilities with those weapons. We love that. That's a great addition just to 2024 in general for all different kind of martial classes. You just get a little extra bang for your buck with your weapons. At level 2, you get Fighting Style and Paladin's Smite. Whereas, again, Fighting Style is the same as the 2014 thing. You... Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, one of the biggest changes, too, is that you don't get your Divine Sense.
You
which
do
is
eventually.
interesting. Eventually, but not at level 1, which is
You
interesting.
get at level 3.
Yeah, it's with your subclass now. But with level 2, you do gain your Fighting Style and your Paladin's Smite, which again, biggest change to the Paladin by far would be your Smite, which is obviously, as everybody knows, it is your bread and butter of the class. It is, as I was saying before, it is akin to the Rogue's Sneak Attack, where this is the ability you are going to be using probably the most vast amount for the entirety of your career as a Paladin. Used to be that your Divine Smite was basically just an innate ability that as a Paladin, you could just infuse your weapon strikes with holy divine wrath and essence. Wasn't a spell, wasn't anything like that. It was just an ability that you could just, at any point when you attacked, choose to activate, essentially. Now, however, a lot of people, GMs, had, kind of some qualms about that, being it was too busted and overpowered. Which,
I mean,
yeah,
I don't hate this.
I mean, again,
And there's one reason why. And I will tell you if you don't pick up on it.
Yeah, nope. Well, here's one of the reasons why a lot of people are kind of controversial in hating this particular thing, because now in 2024, it has technically officially been defined as a spell now. Divine Smite is a spell that requires a casting time of 1 bonus action to self. And so essentially, you can technically, though, to be fair, once per long rest, you can cast your Divine Smite now without expending a spell slot. But you have to finish long rest before you can do it again this way. And anytime you cast it after that, it does require spell slots, because that's in the previous edition, 2014, every Divine Smite costs a spell slot to utilize. Now, of course, this Divine Smite is essentially, I'm trying to look, I don't think it is technically considered a concentration spell.
It's not.
Yes. So it still will effectively function the same.
And also, there's a key note on the bottom of the spell. If you actually read it, looking at the comments, people didn't read. Asterisk, which you take immediately after hitting a target with a melee weapon or unarmed strike. which hey, you couldn't do unarmed strikes before.
You couldn't. They had to
So
be
now,
weapons
so you're telling
specifically.
me I can play
A monk paladin.
a brawler paladin.
I mean that too. If
I'm
you
gonna
if
punch people with divine energy.
you could do that. I mean, again, usually weapons will still do more base damage
No,
unless, of
hey,
course, you're a
hey,
monk. But
hey,
I'm just saying,
hey,
just saying,
hey.
you could multi-class
There's other ways.
as a paladin monk. Yeah, I'm
Hey,
just saying.
you could
It
do
just.
the weird. You could do the weird punching bard one too.
I mean, that
There's
one's
other.
like
There's other
that.
things you could. Hey,
Just go monk. Just go monk.
hey. No, don't go monk because I
Don't
want to
go.
wear heavy armor. Don't.
Just go monk.
Hey, stop.
Why?
It's
You
not
don't need to. You're a
because it's what I
monk.
want. It's
You
what
don't
I
need to wear
want.
heavy armor
It's
though.
not about that. It's what I want. It's not
Oh
what's
my
good. It's what I
gosh.
want.
Oh, goodness.
I don't know
But
why
point
people don't
being
take that away
is
from me.
now essentially though, when you want to divine smite, you will only be able to do it once per turn at
Which is
this point.
fine. It should
Eh,
have been. It should have been limited to
eh,
once per turn anyway.
I,
I think so.
there was
Look, can I be
there are a
completely
few
honest?
things that are as satisfying as just multiple divine smiting like a
Look,
freaking demon lord or an archdevil, just one and two, and like you get you get a higher chance to crit now, like
no, I think this is it. I think overall this is a good change. It also it
yeah.
also helps with all of the weird smite spells that were weird because it didn't make sense that divine smite was one thing, but then there were other smite spells. They're now all on the same playing field. On top of that, the only thing that I would say that sucks is you can't sword and board rules as written unless you picked up Warcaster. Now, me as a person, I say fuck that, and you could just put your symbol on your shield, so it doesn't really matter. Or you could hold it in your hand, in your shield hand. It doesn't matter. Me, as someone who's played Paladin only as a multi-class, because why would I play it as a normal class? Of course, I'd want to add it to other things. I think this is fine. Yes, it is a
Yeah.
nerf, but Paladin was a only a Nova character. I
Yeah.
don't think this ruins Paladin by any means, and
Yeah.
I think people
What
are
about
overreacting.
counterspell, Sam? What about
You don't lose
counterspell?
the spell slot anymore.
You don't get to smite though either, Sam.
Sucks to suck. Counterplay.
Does it? Oh, okay.
Counterplay.
How do you counterplay sneak attack, Sam?
Don't let them sneak.
Oh, yeah. Oh, what if your friend is just within 5 feet of them,
Kill
Sam?
all their friends.
Oh, okay, sure. What if they
Fly
just freaking
away.
use advantage, Sam?
Get out of their range.
Yeah, really? What if they have longbow now, Sam, with weapon mastery?
Your character is a flying demon warlock with a
Because,
thousand yards of
all I'm
with a
saying is
thousand feet of
all
range.
of those things you described could technically have been
Yeah, and
applied
guess
to
what?
the previous.
Sneak attack can only be used once per turn. Just putting that out there. It's always
Yeah,
been
but
once
sneak
per
attack
turn.
also at higher levels gets more dice with it too.
You can do it. Hey,
This you have the potential to lick, and it doesn't cost. What was that again, Sam? A resource to use it. You
I
just
don't. I don't.
can.
I don't find this. I don't. I think this is great.
This shit right here is an absolute nerf to many people, myself included,
Yeah,
who
of
just
course it is.
loved the old times, the times where you could just be an unstoppable holy bulwark of
Yes, it is a
righteousness
nerf.
and justice. Now you're kind of you're kind of stoppable. You're a little bit more
That's
stoppable.
okay. I think that's okay.
Because
It's okay
like
to be unstoppable
they can
sometimes.
now you can just counterspell a divine smite. Which
Yeah, but
sure, balance
odds
and
are
equality or
I'm sorry, but
whatever.
odds are Divine Smite is not your is not the primary target of your counter spell.
Are you kidding me? If you're facing like a demon lord or an archduke and they're about to get smited with like a fifth level or a sixth level
But
divine
you don't lose the
smite,
resource anymore.
you do if you used it once already. You only specifically can do it without a spell
No,
slot
counter spell
once.
was changed. You don't lose the spell slot anymore.
Oh, right. You don't when you technically counterspell a thing. True. Fair enough.
It wastes
Sure.
their reaction. You get your spell back. Here's the other thing
Sure.
as
Fair
well.
enough. I'll give you
As well,
that.
they're look. I think it's okay. Is it a nerf? Yes. They also nerfed Druid really heavily,
Yeah.
and they nerfed
Yeah.
Paladin really heavily.
Yeah.
You know what they
Yeah.
didn't buff? Ranger. Okay? So let's just can we focus on one thing here? Okay?
Hey,
It's
they
not that
did
bad.
buff Ranger technically. They
They
gave
did
it
not buff Ranger
they
more than they
they
nerfed Paladin.
no, they didn't. Like they didn't buff it more, but they did buff it. I'm just saying.
Not enough.
They buffed Ranger, but they absolutely nerfed. I mean, this right here, like to just be able to keep a paladin from doing their divine smite, like
Well, how about this?
ah
Now Paladins actually have to spec into fucking charisma so that they can
ah.
willpower against the spell fucking
Expecting
thing.
charisma all the time anyway because of your aura, Sam. You still
Yeah.
did it.
But what I mean is
Or
a
for your
14
spells.
a 14 charisma is not gonna be enough anymore. You gotta get to 16 at least so that you can fucking save against a counter spell.
Only 14 charisma. That's
Me.
ridiculous.
Always.
Shut up. Shut your whore mouth. You will no longer get to talk about Paladin.
Hey, can you remember? Hey,
Specting
do you want to
14
remember
charisma.
that I never played just a paladin? It was
Yeah.
always a paladin
Yeah.
multiclass.
Uh-huh. Shut your whore mouth.
I'm just saying.
All right, we're moving on. Channel 3 or level 3, you get your channel
Channel
divinity.
3.
Yeah. This evening on Channel 3 News, we're going to be talking about the
Where
Paladin
they
and the
yell
Rogue.
at each other about
Uh,
smite.
Level 3, you get your channel divinity as well as your paladin subclass, which technically you actually got in the 2014 as well, except actually channel divinity would have, been, yeah. Either way, channel divinity, works basically the same as before. You can channel divine energy directly from the outer planes using it to fuel magical effects, which, although one thing is very different, your channel divinity is now your divine sense. Why? Why would they do this? Like, because again, another question too being is like, how many times can you use your channel divinity? Twice. Okay, so you can only use it twice. Before divine sense was its completely own separate thing, and you could use it like as much as your I think proficiency bonus or something. Uh, why? I don't know why they felt the need to try and nerf channel divinity, or sorry, to nerf divine sense of all things. That was cool. Again, one of the coolest things where you could literally search out and seek kind of extra planar entities and stuff, and also kind of sense evil. Like now, it's like, oh, you get 2 uses of it, and you also have to potentially choose between like your subclass channel divinity 2. Coolsies. What? Why? Huh? You get the uses back from a short or long rest, so I guess that's like okay, and you gain 1 additional use when you reach level 11. So you only get a maximum of 3 if you want. Like, okay. Let's see at the actual change to Divine Sense. Okay, Divine Sense is now a bonus action instead of an action like it was before. Again, hey, sure, we like that. Action economy. Cool. You open your awareness to detect celestials, fiends, and undead. Same as before. For the next 10 minutes, okay, that's a little bit different. They made it a more, like, long-lasting effect instead of it kind of just being like a quick pulse to kind of sense things. So I guess maybe they made up for the fact you have less uses now. For that, you now can just extend the duration for 10 minutes. Okay, sure. All right. For the next 10 minutes or until you have the incapacitated condition, you know the location of any creature of those types within 60 feet of yourself, and you know its creature type. Within the same radius, you also detect the presence of any place or object that has been consecrated or desecrated, as with the hollow spell.
I'm
That
pretty
other
sure it's a
part,
buff because I believe you didn't actually know the exact location before.
you
Now
did.
you know the.
Even with the other one, you knew the exact. You're thinking of primeval sense, my dude, with the ranger again. You knew the exact location of every creature that wasn't behind total cover with your divine
Oh,
sense.
damn it!
Yeah.
Does it say total cover in this one?
No, there is no
Oh, so
total
you
cover with this.
so you know that if they're even if they're behind total cover, so they did buff it.
I mean, technically speaking, like I guess we could say that.
I don't know. All I hear is you're being real negative about this, and I'm trying to be very positive.
Yes, clearly here because you didn't like Paladin like I like Paladin. You didn't
I
know
like-
him like I did. You didn't know him like I did.
That is certainly something, Adam.
Here's the thing I will say. This isn't a whole. This in essence is kind of breaking even, in my opinion.
I think
you get less uses of it for longer duration, as well as you switched up the action to a bonus action, which is nice.
Technically better.
And technically speaking, rules as written, It doesn't technically take into consideration any amount of cover that a creature might be having.
I think I'm
So,
hearing the word better, I think is the.
yeah, it's different, Sam. It's
I'm so
different.
sorry. I love you.
Love you too, buddy. But it is definitely a change, and you have to utilize one of your channel divinities to do so, which does lower the capacity for you to do so with other abilities that you would want to utilize in combat, especially, well, at least depending on what subclass you might choose.
And who knows, they might have changed those abilities too to not be as
Potentially, we
viable all the time.
shall see, won't we, acolytes? Yes, yes, we will. You get your paladin subclass level 3 like you did before. It's the same shit as before. Moving on, level 4, ability score improvements. You know, you get them at 8, 4, 8, 12, and 16, as well as I believe 19, or no, 18, I believe as well.
No,
Um, is
it's
it
8,
just
12, and 16.
16? Oh yeah.
8,
Oh
12, and
yeah.
16.
Oh yeah, no, just for paladins, just 8, 12, and 16. Okay, copy that. Level 5, you get that extra attack, that sweet, sweet extra attack as always. We always love that. But one caveat they did add, which is very nice, that I do appreciate, many people do, is known as Faithful Steed. For before at level 5,
Yeah, baby.
you only got just your extra attack. That was it. But now you get a Faithful Steed, because now you can call on the aid of an otherworldly steed, and you always have the Find Steed spell prepared. You no longer need to prepare Find Steed in your spell list. You just always have it and can always summon your Faithful Steed. You can also cast a spell once without expending a spell slot, and you regain the ability to do so when you finish a long rest. So you will essentially just always be able to summon your steed indefinitely. At any point, even if it ends up getting unceremoniously destroyed at
Well, you
some
get a free
point.
one, which is
Yeah,
nice.
you just get a free one. At
We
level
like that.
6, you still get your aura of protection, which is phenomenal. Again, this is why you should still spec into charisma, Samuel, even if you are multi-classing for just this ability alone, if also not for your spells, your saving throws, and the like. Okay. Aura protection. You radiate a protective, unseeable aura in a 10-foot emanation that originates from you. The aura is inactive while you have the incapacitated condition. You and your allies in the aura gain a bonus to saving throws equal to your charisma modifier, a minimum of +1. If another paladin is present, a creature can benefit from only one aura protection at a time. The creature chooses which aura while in them. So, this is amazing right here. Still functions exactly the same. You also get this at 6th level. There is no change at all to this. Still love it. Still great. That's great. Level 9, you get the ability, which is completely different, Abjure Foes. As a magic action, which is a new thing in 2024, but it's basically just casting a spell, basically, or just any magic, just a magic action. You can expend one use of this class's Channel Divinity, which is another Channel Divinity now. So you have either Divine Sense or Abjure Foes to overwhelm foes with awe. As you present your holy symbol or weapon, you can target a number of creatures equal to your charisma modifier. Modifier, Sam, get that charisma up. That you can see within 60 feet of yourself. Each target must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or have the frightened condition for 1 minute or until it takes any damage. While frightened in this way, a target can do only one of the following on its turns: move, take an action, or take a bonus action. So, this is okay. At level 9, I think you're still fighting plenty of enemies who can be susceptible to the frightened condition. There are many enemies and creatures that, however, that do kind of become immune to such things at higher levels, but this is still helpful. If you increase your charisma modifier appropriately enough, your saving throw for it will be pretty high, and therefore, you also can target more creatures depending on your charisma modifier too. But either way, therefore, you can kind of, again, like Sam said before with one of the effects of the rogue, you can kind of inflict a faux kind of slowed on them, essentially, because they can only choose one of each of these things. They can either move, action, or bonus action. Which again, as we know, action economy is still king. So being able to shut down their ability to utilize all three of these a turn, pretty great.
Also, certain monsters don't even have bonus actions, which is fun because that means if they want to move, like it just
Yeah.
fucks with so much, and I love it.
Yes. It can absolutely shut down certain enemies if depending on who it is and if you're lucky enough. And again, the cool thing is they're just like this for a minute or until they take any damage. So like they just like, and another thing I believe too is that they also can't move closer to you. Even if they choose to move, they can't move closer to you. So that effectively even cuts their options even further down at that point. They also have disadvantage on ability checks and any attack rolls while they can see you. So this really does, if you can get it off, this will just absolutely fuck up someone's day. Pretty decent. Again, you didn't really get anything at level 9 previously except for just spells for Paladin. So hey, we like that little extra bang for your buck. That's nice, you know. Pretty sure they just took this from another subclass that kind of allowed them to do the same thing, but they just made it now a permanent Paladin ability. So hey, we'll take that. Kudos to that. Level 10, same as before, is your Aura of Courage. Now you and your allies have immunity to the Frightened condition while in your Aura of Protection. So essentially, you guys can't be frightened at this point. Like we said, same thing as before. No difference. Yeah, just a baseline ability. Level 11, Radiant Strikes, which is slightly different from the previous ability known as Divine or Improved Divine Smite. But it's still effectively kind of the exact same thing. Radiant Strikes, you now carry supernatural power with every strike you hit. When you hit a target with an attack roll using a melee weapon or an unarmed strike, the target takes an extra 1d8 radiant damage. Same thing as before, except now it also includes unarmed strikes. That's basically it. They just changed the name, but it's effectively just exactly the same thing. At level 14, you gain Restoring Touch. Again, almost the same thing as the 2014 edition, just a different name for it. When you use your Lay on Hands feature, you can also remove one or more of the following conditions from the creatures: being blinded, charmed, deafened, frightened, paralyzed, or stunned. You must expend 5 hit points from the healing pool of Lay on Hands for each of these conditions you remove. Those points don't also restore hit points to the creature. Same thing as Cleansing Touch. Actually, no, I shouldn't say that. It is not quite the same thing. Because to be fair, with Cleansing Touch, you basically expended an action to end like one spell on yourself or one willing creature that you touch. So technically speaking, this could actually kind of be considered a little bit of a nerf, actually, because it's not just any spell now. It's specifically just these extra conditions, which, to be fair, a lot of spells can affect or can, inflict these kinds of things. And there are also, to be fair, a lot of things that aren't spells that can inflict these kinds of things. Like, for instance, you get one of your allies gets hit with like a stunning strike from an enemy monk, right? You could technically go and end that stun condition on them, and you can do it, technically speaking, as a bonus action. So there is that. Again, they kind of neutralized it, right? There are positives and negatives to it, like we're kind of seeing overall, where they're taking away some of the more, I guess one might say, OP attributes of the Paladin class and trying to but still give a little bit back to being like, okay, it's not as OP per se as it was before, but we're also giving you kind of some more flexibility and leeway here to balance the scales, huh? Kind of. All right. I can appreciate it. I get it. I do. Begrudgingly so. Level 18, same as before. You basically, your aura for whatever you have just increases to 30 feet instead of just 10 feet. Same thing as before. And finally, at level 19, you gain your Epic Boon, which is, again, a new thing for 2024. These things are amazing. I am a huge fan of these. Again, we utilized these in the last campaign that we just finished. Being able to kind of feel them out, and they're badass as hell. They're cool
the
thing
thing
is
that makes me sad that you don't get them in multi-classing.
Yeah,
obviously you don't, but
no, you're not going to.
So I'll probably never get one.
But well, I mean, it would depend on if your GM allows you to technically, because if you are technically level 19 character, even though you're not level 19 in a class, your GM might still allow you to take an Epic Boon, because it also just kind of makes sense. You are technically a level 19 character. There's not really any other reason. It would suck to not also get that if every other character is able to get that if they're just whatever. You know what I mean? But another cool thing too being is these Epic Boons allow you to basically continue to level up past level 20. Like you can basically keep going finally into real epic level campaigns. To be fair, I actually do have a literal like third party book that allows you. It's called Epic Legacy, where you can literally start like applying like really cool epic level boons and stuff. But now, just the base game of D&D lets you do that. So then you can maybe even take your characters even further beyond, which is great. You can literally have god level, divine level like D&D campaigns if you want. Beautiful things. But that in essence, that's the totality of the baseline 2024 Paladin and its kind of comparison to the 2014 Paladin. Like again, not a lot of changes here or there, but definitely a number of them. Which, is what it is. It's not it's not bad. It's not, in conclusion and in reality, like none of it is really bad or terrible at all. It's just going to be a little bit different. And there are definitely like bonuses and benefits here or there, while there are also some detriments and some, nerfs here or there. And that's okay. You know what I mean? I understand why they did it. It's not unfair or unreasonable, I would say. Like they didn't absolutely blow it to shit at all. It's still going to be one of your most powerful classes in the game. It's still going to be highly viable. It's still going to be highly flexible and diversifiable or diversifying. Uh, and it's still going to be, it's still one of my favorites for sure. I still enjoy it a lot. Specifically, the oath that I wanted to talk about, though, is I definitely wanted to talk about Oath of Vengeance, because that's also one of my favorites and also one of the best in the previous one.
Classic.
Yep, it's a classic one. It was one of the original back in the day as well. And obviously, again, it's one of the most popular and fun for a reason. For your level 3 Oath of Vengeance spells, you get all the same ones, I believe, as before. Hold on, scrying, banishment. Yeah, you get all the same extra spells that you get from it. You still get your Vow of Enmity as well, which is your channel divinity specifically. But yeah, see, they took Oath of Vengeance second channel divinity, because in the original 2014 edition, you got usually two different channel divinities for your subclass. One of them was Abjure Enemy for your Oath of Vengeance in 2014, but they instead just took that from the Vengeance Paladin subclass and gave it to full Paladins in 2024. And they also made a little bit of changes to make it better. It's not just like, just to be fair, when you have the other channel divinity, there was no reason to use the other one. There was no reason to use Abjure Enemy. It was a useless channel divinity to have for a subclass. But I'd be interested to see, actually, are they only giving like subclasses one channel divinity now instead of two, because they just gave Abjure Enemy to paladins in general now? I think so, actually. Oath of Glory spells, Peerless Athlete, Channel Divinity. Yeah, I think they changed it now, where they just like none of the paladin subclasses, you only get one channel divinity, because they just give you another one at level 9 now. So all the subclasses, you only get one instead of two. Okay, sure. I guess
Isn't
that's
that a good
fine.
thing though? Because like it's streamlined, like everyone gets
Well, it's,
something.
yeah, well, it's not just streamlined, but it's also like I think it's just kind of cleaning it up, because again, the reality is usually every paladin subclass only had one good channel divinity anyway. Like it was usually like you would only, if any of them were good, you would only ever use one. Like where there was one that was usually always just clearly better, and there was almost no reason to waste a channel of divinity on the other one. So I think in essence that makes sense and it's fair. There's no reason really, because they just, yeah, it was like, mm. uh but for your Oath of Vengeance paladins, they have one of the best channel divinities, known as Vow of Enmity. When you take the attack action on your turn, you can expend one use of your channel divinity to utter a Vow of Enmity against a creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself. You have advantage on attack rolls against the creature for 1 minute or until you use this feature again. If the creature drops to 0 hit points before the vow ends, you can transfer the vow to a different creature within 30 feet of yourself. No action required. So this is slightly different from the 2014 edition. 2014 edition was as a bonus action. you could utter a vow of enmity against a creature within 10 feet of you using your channel divinity, and you would gain attack roll advantage against attack rolls against that creature for 1 minute or until it drops 0 hit points or falls unconscious, and that was it. So here, technically speaking, you can use your vow of enmity now as just an action as you're attacking. You're already attacking them, and you're just like, I will slay you, my enemy. And now you just have advantage on them for the next minute. Or you can use it again, because now you have more uses of it in general, which is nice, as well as it functions more similarly now to Hunter's Mark, where if a creature drops to 0 hit points before the vow ends, you can then transfer it to a different creature within 30 feet of yourself, no action required. That is great. That's amazing. Now because one of the biggest issues was you usually only had vow of enmity like once per combat, and so you had to kind of choose it, sparingly, because once you used it once and you took out your target, that was it, basically.
Yeah, you basically like, I'm only using this on the big bad guy.
Yeah, it was far less viable or applicable. But now they've made it way more flexible, and now you can use it at least 2 times until you get to level 11, and you can potentially use it 3 times. Or technically, you can only use it, once if you also use your divine sense or your aura or your, abjure enemy or whatever, because divine sense is now part of your channel divinity for some fucking reason. But yeah, still great, still nice. We appreciate it. At level 7, you gain your Relentless Avenger ability, same as before. For this one, your supernatural focus helps you close off a foe's retreat. When you hit a creature with an opportunity attack, you can reduce the creature's speed to 0 until the end of the current turn. You can then move up to half your speed as part of the same reaction. This movement does not provoke opportunity attacks. Now, this is slightly different from the original. It is definitely a buff because here you can literally, it basically is like an inbuilt Sentinel feat ability. You can use Sentinel as a Paladin now. So in the original 2014, you did not reduce the creature's speed to 0 when you hit them. They could still move, but you could also basically just you could run after them. Right, you can just be like and kind of keep up with them as they ran away. Now you can literally stop their movement and then move as well if you want to. Like you can stop them, maybe even get in front of them or break off their advance or their retreats and kind of keep it that way. So that's definitely an improvement, which is cool. Because one of the biggest issues about the previous one was, yeah, you got an opportunity attack, which allowed you to kind of still move, and you didn't provoke opportunity attacks. But the problem was if they could move faster than you, which most of the time, because you can only move half your speed, so you could only move probably 15 feet, where they could still move their full speed of 30. So you'd still technically be 15 feet behind them at that point. So this is definitely a buff, which I appreciate. Next up is level 15, Soul of Vengeance, the same as 2014. However, obviously, there might be a little bit of changes here. Immediately after a creature under the effect of your vow of enmity hits or misses with an attack roll, you can take a reaction to make a melee attack against that creature if it's within range. No, exactly the same as 2014. There is no difference here. It's basically just you just get to retaliate if they have the audacity to try and hit you. Although I will say though, it's just when you make an attack. So even if they didn't hit you before, so same thing. And finally, at the pinnacle, 20th level capstone ability. Again, one of the best in the game, I would say, or at least it was. We'll find out if it still is, especially for Paladin. You have the ability known as Avenging Angel. As a bonus action, you gain the benefits below for 10 minutes or until you end them. No action required. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. You also restore your use of it by expending a level 5 spell slot. No action required. That's new. You gain flight. You sprout spectral wings on your back, have a fly speed of 60 feet, and can hover. You also gain Frightful Aura. Whenever an enemy starts to turn in your aura of protection, which is 30 feet by this point, that creature must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or have the frightened condition for 1 minute or until it takes any damage. Attack rolls against a frightened creature have advantage, which is kind of obvious. But either way, that is essentially almost word for word the same as the 2014 edition. However, there is a slight difference. One being they basically supplemented again. It used to be you could basically undergo this transformation. It was an action to do initially, as well as it lasted, however, for a full hour. Now you see, similar as what they're doing before with Divine Sense, they're cutting back the amount of time or slack, or rather the amount of uses you have, but changing it for duration, essentially. Right? So for this one, it's the opposite. You used to be you could be in this form for a full hour. Now it only lasts for 10 minutes, which is still great, still a long time. Uh, but you can still technically use it again if you expend a 5th level spell slot. So that still is like, and because your maximum spell slots at this point are going to be 5th level. So you're basically going to be trading one of your max spell slots to potentially go back into this form again if you ended up using it at some earlier point on. But everything else is basically exactly the same. You get spectral wings, you get an aura of eminence, or rather an aura of menace out to 30 feet. They have to constantly make wisdom saving throws while being in your aura to be frightened, and you have advantage and everything like that. So basically, almost exactly the same, except for just the amount of times you can use it and the duration of it is different. But overall, that is Paladin that we're talking about today. Sammy, what would be your overall rating of the new 2024 Paladin?
I mean, uh, I kind of like it. I like, yeah, obviously it was nerfed. But I think, we're also forgetting that because of the new weapon masteries and other things, like there is extra damage and things that you get to do every turn.
True.
And we haven't seen what that stacks up against in terms of what's going to be in the new monster manual, what actual play is going to look like. I would say I think it's fine. I don't think Paladin got nerfed into the ground. I think, you have to make some better choices, and maybe you can't go as fucking Super Saiyan as you could before. But I don't, but like, no offense, that you could do that occasionally, but in most encounters in most games, that's really not how it went down in my experience. Um, I don't think this takes away from the Paladin's effectiveness. I think it's going to be just as effective. I think you're going to have basically be able to do the same things. There's some quality of life improvements, like the Fine Steed and a couple other things that I think actually end up working in the Paladin's favor in the sense of just throughout normal play. Because the other issue with a lot of martial classes or paladin as well is that they really were only good at the thing they were good at. They were very pigeonholed. Understandably so. The one thing they did really fucking well. But
I mean, no one can say the fighter ain't effective at fighting. Like,
no, like, and that's kind of the point. But I think a lot of what's being offered now is more than just nerfs or buffs. It's a change in what you should expect when playing these classes. And I don't think the expectation for what the paladin has become is a bad one, if that makes sense. I understand the nerf and I understand people's frustration, but this is by far not the only class that got nerfed, or
no.
changed in a way that like kind of completely changes how it functions. So I'm not I don't feel bad for people who are like, but my paladin. It's like, dude, your paladin's still just as good. Overall, in my opinion.
I would concur. I would
Like, you
agree.
want to complain? Let's talk about Ranger. Oh wait, we already did. Um, let's talk about classes that like didn't
Ranger is
really.
better than it was. That is a fact. It is better than it
They
was.
nerfed parts that they didn't need to take out, Adam.
They didn't nerf anything, Sam. They
Yes,
just
they did. They
changed.
changed. They changed Hunter. They made Hunter worse. Remember?
Ah,
Yeah.
hmm.
So in my opinion,
I don't know if they made Hunter really worse. There was some things that
well,
they
they didn't make it
switched.
better, really, overall.
Doesn't mean
We
it's
talked
worse.
about this. We talked about this. They did make it better. So if it ends up exactly the same, it was already bad.
Or maybe it was just so good that they didn't have to make any
It was
changes.
never good.
I mean, I like
Adam,
Hunter.
Adam, Adam,
I mean,
Adam,
Colossus Slayer. Colossus Slayer is
Adam,
great.
Adam. Just
They
play
took a
Gloomstalker. Just play Monster Hunter. Just play any of the other
Slayer. Yeah,
ones.
Monster Slayer. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like fucking Horizon Walker. All of those were better. Adam,
Hunter still had its place.
Adam. No,
I've
you need to. I need you to look. It's just. Let's just. Can we just admit?
I mean, hey.
I would just like to admit. Yeah, it's not good. This is better though, and I'm okay with that.
I will say yes. I agree. Paladin, while there are changes, it's not worse off, I would say at all. I wouldn't necessarily even, in all seriousness and honesty, I wouldn't necessarily even call a lot of these like nerfs. It's just different. It's just slightly different. Like the only real nerf would just be Divine Smite. And yes, Divine Smite was quite powerful. It was. And they basically kind of just nerfed it down where it's only once per turn now. Technically speaking, you can do it once, however, without expending a spell slot, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it at base level. You could maybe do at max level, like a fifth level Divine Smite, for free. So that means you also get like at least 2 other 5th level Divine Smites if you want, as well as more. So, it can be counterspelled now, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you lose the spell slot. So, there is more counterplay and more maybe strategic application now for Paladin than there was before, where it was kind of just, a brain dead go smite evil thing or whatever. So it's not necessarily bad, especially I will say it definitely introduces an interesting kind of dynamic with PvP now too, where like, Paladin before just goes up to like a wizard or a bard or or a sorcerer and just like Divine Smite. It's like, well, now technically speaking, you could just no, and stop them from Divine Smiting now, at least with one of the attacks. Although technically, again, it has to be your bonus action, so you can only do it once. That in essence is the only real problem. Is technically speaking, you could stop a paladin every turn if it's like a one-on-one fight with like a spellcaster who has counterspell. And I don't know if Paladin themselves get counterspell. If they do, that would maybe like, free up the or at least kind of even up the playing field. But obviously the only issue is, again, if a spellcaster can just continuously like counterspell you every turn, you effectively might not even be able to use your Divine Smite, is the problem, while they have spell slots to counterspell with. I think that was people's biggest issue and problem. Like, let's even see real quick. Counterspell. So only Oath of Redemption and Oath of Watchers gets counterspell for paladins. So that was a lot of people's biggest issues, is that it does make the paladin a little bit like much more vulnerable to that kind of thing. So
Yeah, but you're not the only person in your party. There's
no. So hopefully you might have again others who can counterspell the counterspell, or you can also, you still have the other smite abilities too, where you can like you can coat your weapon in a smite, right? And like Sam said too, to be fair, like depending on the situation, the scenario, they may have already used their reaction, or they may have already counterspelled something else or done something. Like if they use their reaction, then you're golden. But it will be interesting to see people's experiences. Like, maybe at some point we'll read some horror stories about that exact scenario now, where people are like, I tried to Divine Smite this guy, and he just kept counterspelling it every single time to stop me from being able to Divine Smite him. And it's like, yeah, I could see that being aggravating and being, upsetting.
I mean, it is upsetting, but like
Yeah.
that's counterspell has always been upsetting.
Well, also to be fair, the
But
new
now
counterspell
counterspell isn't as bad.
No, to be fair, the new counterspell you do get a chance to resist it, right? It is now a saving throw specifically. So technically speaking, you won't automatically just lose unless, of course, they use a counter spell higher than the level of spell.
But then also you get a chance. You don't lose the spell slot. So
Well,
like
you would technically, I guess, lose your initial use of not using a spell slot at all anyway.
no,
Like if
you
it's the
can't.
first time,
Technically, no. I would say no
I would agree, but again,
because you're not using a spell slot.
some GMs might rules as written be like you can't you technically already used your ability to not have to use a spell slot. And
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah,
You didn't
I
use a
agree.
spell slot, so I wouldn't lose it.
Yeah. So it's like, people are gonna make all kinds of
I mean,
stuff
yeah, I
up and
guess you
stuff
could
as
go
they
either way
can.
with that. And like at the end of the day, what are they going to counterspell? Your free level one smite, or does it scale?
No, I'm saying there's nothing about it that says you can't do a free fifth level
Oh,
smite.
it's the highest level. Okay,
It's
so either
just
way,
well, it's just whatever you choose. It just literally is, let's see. The specific divine smite spell. Target damage increases. Yeah, the target takes an extra 2d8 radiant damage. Using a higher level spell slot, the damage increases by once. You can cast it without expending a spell slot, but you must finish long rest before you do this again. It doesn't say anything
oh
about you having.
yeah, I guess it's the highest one you have access to.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything about you having limited access or
Well,
only
that's
using
nice.
level one.
That's
So yeah,
cool.
so you can for free once you get those fifth level spell slots, cast it at a fifth level
That's
for
pretty
free.
cool.
Yeah, and then so you still technically have like two more spell slots that you could utilize
I
for
like
that
that.
or
That's
whatever.
nice.
Yeah, it's cool. But again, if somebody has counterspell and you fail the counterspell, you might just lose that thing
Yeah,
anyway.
well, I mean, you're not the only one in the party. You have a hopefully you have a wizard or a sorcerer with you that also has counterspell.
Well,
Like
that's the
it's
thing. A lot
not.
of people don't take counterspell, which is hilarious to me.
I
Like
do.
I do too. But
Counterspell is very important.
a lot of I think they changed it too where
Someone in your party should have counterspell.
you'd think so, but I've played with a couple of parties who didn't
Refuse
have
to
it.
take counterspell. That's
Yeah,
well.
who didn't have
Can I
counterspell
tell you
and I
something?
had I
You're
couldn't get
playing
counterspell.
you're playing with a party who doesn't actually believe in strategery. And that's not something that you
You're not
can
wrong.
that's just how sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles there, man.
I mean, they do. It depends on the time and day. How I think more into strategy they are, especially with where we are in the evil campaign now. But we'll see. Either way, though, overall assessment, I'm still okay with this. Like, because again, I did have the privilege of being able to play in a game with two paladins who played the 2014 and one played the 2024, and so we did literally get to see the two of them and how they kind of work and function side by side, which is really cool. And overall, yeah, I don't feel like this is necessarily a real true nerf. It's just different. It's just a bit different. There are positives to both, which are nice and appreciated. And overall, it will just be fun and interesting to try to figure out and work around this new iteration of the Paladin, right? It's almost like it's literally just like a brand new class,
Yeah.
essentially. And so it'll be interesting to kind of see how it works and figure out how to, find broken, busted cheat codes for this one too, as everybody always does. Um, but yeah, overall, that's my assessment of it. And I think that's about all we've got for you today, unless you have any other closing statements at all, Sammy.
No, I think I got it across. I already changed my name. Pending the
There it is. Hey.
pending how this is going to go down.
Well, that being the case, go ahead and take us out then, buddy.
Yeah. As always, thank you for joining us today. Hopefully, you enjoyed our back and forth about the wonderful new changes that Wizards of the Coast made with a gun to their head from Hasbro um, to a game we love. But as always, feel free to leave any comments down there. It could just be like talking about your dog,
We'll
how,
absolutely take dog and
like
kitty
a good sandwich you
updates.
had this week.
Mm,
Anything really. We appreciate that.
we do.
But as always, we'll see you again soon for another dive into the archive. Whether that's going to be more of this or something entirely different, I do not know.
Only time will tell.
Only time will tell.
Appreciate y'all, though. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. So long.